All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 51. Thank you guys so much for being here and being patient while the credits roll. And I always like to do that to just give people some time to file in, because I know it's hard for everybody to kind of, make it on time. And I also have no control over when YouTube wants to push out notifications, or if they even want to push out notifications. And right off the bat, as usual, we have Sir Speaks a Lot. You're saying, a hawk tried to grab my little dog today. I was so mad, I came up to it with a shovel, and before I beat it up, I said, wait, I got the feet pics. That's what it said, I'm assuming. Yeah, so, okay, there we go. We have our weekly Sir Speaks a Lot super chat involving some type of feet pics. So thank you so much for that, man. And again, thank you guys for being here. If you guys could do me a favor, whether you are here live as we are streaming this, or if you are watching after the fact, please hit that like button. It helps way more than you guys know. There's a reason why pretty much every YouTuber asks for likes. It's because that's what YouTube essentially determines or uses to determine whether they're going to help push out your content or not. And I'm assuming that anybody who's here wants to see this podcast grow, and I definitely can't do it without you guys. So hit that like button. RA89, you're saying, y'all banking really hard lately on that secret sauce power unlocking stuff, and then y'all refuse to believe that the PS5 is a half-baked system. Well, the good news here, RA, is that this actually has nothing to do with secret sauce. I promise you. I know that some people are reading the title and they are jumping to conclusions. They are assuming, oh no, here we go. Insert Jim Carrey rolling eyes meme. Here we go again. He's starting with the T-flop power talk. No, actually, we are talking about the reality of what's going to happen with the PlayStation 5. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the Xbox Series X. I mean, naturally, that's going to be part of the conversation because it's inevitable. But the reality is, this isn't a matter of power in the traditional who has more power, what offers more power. No, this is strictly talking about the PS5. And I would say that Xbox is part of the conversation in terms of acknowledging the fact that while the Xbox Series X is going to improve over time and developers will get more familiar with it, and therefore developers will be able to extract more out of it, this is focused more on, first of all, acknowledging that that exact same concept and philosophy applies to the PlayStation 5, but there are also some important things I want to highlight as well, as to why you want to maybe look forward to what the PlayStation 5 is going to do for games in the future. Let's see, we have Starscream3117. You're saying, hey man, haven't been able to watch live in a while. Been listening to your podcast driving to and from work lately. Hope you're doing well. Well, thank you so much, man. I am doing very well, certainly much better than I was doing towards the beginning of this year. I hope you're all doing well as well. I probably should have said that in the beginning, but I appreciate the support, man. I love when people can tune into the content and tune into the podcast, whether you're, driving, watching, or listening while you're at work or whatever. I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate the super chats. So thank you for that. And by the way, RA89, I do want to let you know, you're saying we refuse to believe that the PS5 is a half-baked system. I would just love to know, honestly, I would love to know what makes the PS5 a half-baked system. And I'm saying this because I have been playing on this console since the day it launched. Now, I'm not claiming it's perfect. There are certainly some improvements that can and should be made over time. But I'm serious. What about it makes it a half-baked console? More often than not, when we see these Digital Foundry comparisons, the PS5 is having some type of edge. Now, am I sitting here telling you that that's a massive edge? The type of edge that's like, oh man, this is a huge difference maker. You definitely want to throw out the Xbox Series X. Don't even consider that as a console. I don't get it. Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, if you want to say that the PS5 to you is not the ideal next-gen console, then I can totally respect that. But to call it a half-baked console and to make it seem like we have to all accept this and come out here and claim the PS5 is a half-baked console, I don't understand that. I'm just saying that as somebody who has spent literally hundreds of hours on this console playing games. It's great. I mean, to put it as simply as I can, it's great. So before I start ranting, because, that's apparently how I'm starting off this podcast, just immediately ranting, I do have to give a shout out to some of my channel members. So if you want to help support this channel directly, if that's something you care about, if you enjoy my content here, if you like what I do and you want to take the extra step in helping support what I do, consider becoming a channel member. You do get a few perks. It's been difficult for me to kind of keep up with every single perk, so I kind of, I had to adjust them accordingly. But really, the membership serves as a way for you to support me directly in my content here. And there are different tiers. And so I want to give a special shout out to those who opt into the Play Has No Limits Plus and the Play Has No Limits tier. So starting with Play Has No Limits Plus, absolutely massive shout out to Junior Jackson, D. Luffy, Samuel Payne, Josh Z, and Matt Wheatley. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate you guys going truly above and beyond here to help support what I do. And then we have the Play Has No Limits tier. And I want to give a big shout out to Brandon Chad Perez, Alpha Acer, Brittany Goes Meow, Adrian Pollard, Sayin JT, Jeffrey Hicks, Big Norman 0518, Tyson Webb 509, MH, Shaky Shako, Ragin' Whiskey, Space Gambler Jr., The Tiger Man Show, and Sir Speaks a Lot. Thank you guys so much for truly just, taking it to another level here when it comes to showing your support for what I do here on the channel. So, with that being said, I'm going to switch over to some gameplay now, and I'm going to let you know right off the bat what this gameplay is. And of course, I'm at a pause screen because why wouldn't I? I definitely went back and edited this footage, but yet here we are sitting at a pause screen. So I do apologize for that. Hopefully the pause screen won't last too long. But the gameplay you're going to see is Dead Ops Arcade from Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, because I was trying to beat it, and I did beat it, surprisingly. It's probably one of the more difficult trophies I've ever unlocked, so you'll be able to see that. Geez, why is it sitting here at a pause screen? That is incredibly annoying. I literally, went through this, I thought with a fine-tooth comb, but I guess not. So anyway, just wait for that gameplay to start up. I might consider just bringing the member scroll back, but... Freeze Vamp, you're saying, hi MBG, can I be a member to you and how? There should be a join button you should be able to hit. I don't know if it's available in every country or every area. I'm pretty sure that's a thing that's limiting it. So if you don't see the join button, that might be why. But you should see a join button somewhere on my channel. And just for now, I'm going to put the member credits back up for just a moment because I'm annoyed at myself for not editing that. 3 Point Sizzle, you're saying, which PlayStation console was your favorite? The PS2, PS3, PS4, or PS5 so far? Well, I spent a lot of time with the PS1 and PS2, not so much time with the PS3. I also spent a lot of time with the PS4. I'm going to have to say the PS4, honestly, simply because I can confidently say, even though there were a ton of amazing games I've experienced on the PlayStation 2. I think it's kind of a tie between the PS2 and PS4, but some of the games I've experienced on PS4 are truly just on another level. Some of the best games I've ever experienced in my life, and it feels like the peak of gaming in some sense. And so I'm going to have to give it to the PS4. I can't say the PS5 yet because we're just getting started with the PS5, as I'm sure you'll become aware of when we talk later. You're asking if any news for Metal Gear Solid yet. Unfortunately, there isn't. Not yet. I'm patiently waiting alongside everybody else. But I'm not going to... I will give you a quick rundown, actually, very quickly, of the topics we're going to talk about. The first topic we're talking about is just a general discussion about this notion that seems to be prevalent when we talk about these consoles, and that is that the Xbox Series X is going to improve over time, and developers are going to unlock all of this power and do all of these crazy things with it. And not everybody, but some people who kind of push this notion and this narrative, which I do believe it's true, they kind of make it sound like that same thing is not applicable to the PS5, that the PS5 is going to remain stagnant and remain right where it is right now, and we should not expect any major improvements, and we certainly should not expect the PS5 to be able to keep up with the competition. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to be talking a little bit about this potential boost in performance that may be coming from AMD. I do have to kind of correct myself a little bit because in the video I made talking about it, I explained it very poorly. So I plan to correct that here. We're also going to talk about not Microsoft, but Sony's intense focus on AAA hit games. I just want to have a general discussion about that. I also want to talk about the idea that Sony may be saving a very big surprise. Potentially, this is just pure speculation, but the reason why I say this is because we know that next week, seemingly, or sometime this month, Microsoft is going to be talking about their Bethesda acquisition in a very big way, and I have to imagine that Microsoft is probably going to announce something significant to some extent that, Sony may be preparing for, right? It's going to be a big moment for Microsoft, and I'm not saying that Sony wants to necessarily steal their thunder, but I think that Sony wants to make sure that they remain as relevant as they can during a potentially big time for Microsoft. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So yeah, let's dive in here to the first topic. Something we talk about a lot is what these consoles will do once developers really start to get more comfortable and familiar with the hardware. There's this narrative surrounding the Xbox Series X specifically, and how developers have not yet tapped into what it's capable of, and that they're going to be doing so within the next year or two. That actually does make a lot of sense, and I think we should all believe that because it's obvious. However, things get a bit weird once some individuals start to kind of turn this narrative into this notion that the Xbox Series X is going to get better and better over time, and the PS5 will either not get better or just simply won't be able to keep up at all. And so I feel the need to have this conversation mainly because there's kind of two components to it, all right? The first component just has to do with the fact that, and let me really quick before I do that. The first component, dude, how is that? I think there's something wrong with my thing here. I think I messed up with the gameplay. I'm not sure why this is stuck like that. So I do apologize. I really don't know what's going on there. I may have to call an audible last minute and insert some different gameplay if that doesn't correct itself soon. But I'll just keep the credits up for now. So there's two components to this. Okay, first of all, it's this idea that the PS5, as I said, is not going to improve whatsoever. To me, this is just this is just a ridiculous notion that's just simply not true for extremely obvious reasons. But more importantly, when I talk about in the title, and yes, I'm being a bit hyperbolic with the title, but it's because it just, we see people do it all the time, right? When we talk about unlocking the PS5's true power and true capability and potential, what does that exactly mean? Well, first of all, that's not going to happen with third-party titles. That's going to happen with Sony's first-party titles. And the reason why I'm so adamant about kind of expressing this and kind of pushing back against this notion that regardless of what people want to tell me, this is a notion that is pressed upon many gamers by a certain group. Sony's first-party studios are going to be the ones to really maximize the PS5 hardware. And the same goes for Microsoft with their studios. But the big problem is that I think individuals who are running with this notion seem to forget that Sony really did some very interesting things with the PS4 Pro. And, people are probably sitting here and they're being like, dude, why do you care? It's not that I care that much. It's more along the lines of just trying to make it clear to anybody who does care about this, to make it clear to anybody who may be paying attention, who may be curious. You need to understand that Sony Studios are going to be the one to really unlock, I guess you could say, the true power and potential of what the PS5 can do. And that's not going to happen overnight, just like it's not going to happen for the Xbox Series X. I feel like this conversation is more so surrounding everything we are seeing with the PlayStation 5 versus the Xbox Series X in terms of third-party multi-plat games. And I'm just truly baffled by this. Like, I really don't understand it. There are some instances where the Xbox Series X does come out on top with a higher resolution or just overall slightly better performance. But then there are many other instances, whether it's due to a software bug or not, where the PS5 has the advantage. And what they will tell you is that, oh, the reason for this is it's not because the PS5 is actually a good console. No, it's not that. It's not because the PS5 can maybe hold its own against the Series X. No. Okay? It would be blasphemy for them to say that. It's only because developers are more familiar with the PS5's toolset and the PS5's API than they are with the Xbox Series X toolset and API. And here's the thing. That may actually be true for a couple of reasons. We hear it's because, Sony got their dev kits out earlier than Microsoft. Microsoft had to wait for full RDNA 2, so developers have not had as much time with it. And developers are not taking full advantage of the Xbox Series X feature set. And it's like, can we not ignore the fact here that developers are certainly not taking full advantage of the PS5's toolset or API as well? They have not fully tapped into the geometry engine and what that may be capable of, just like developers have not fully tapped into all of the features that the Xbox Series X has on offer. This is all I'm trying to say right now, okay? I'm just simply trying to explain that you're going to see impressive results from Sony Studios, and that's where you're going to see the true power and capability of the PlayStation 5 unlocked. I don't know why anybody could doubt this. I don't know why anybody would walk away from what we've seen believing that the PS5 is not going to be able to compete. Maybe it's totally pointless for me to even have this conversation, but this is just something that I've seen thrown my way a lot. This isn't about T-flop numbers. This isn't about, comparing the spec sheets and saying, well, the PS5 may have some secret sauce. No, the secret sauce, guys, I'm gonna reveal it right now, okay? And this is gonna be a big bomb drop. You guys ready? Everybody's always like, oh, the secret sauce, the PS5 secret sauce. It's a weird term, but it's just the term that we use. What is it? What is it really? I'm gonna tell you what it is, okay? PlayStation's secret sauce are its studios and its talent. Okay, always has been, always will be. There's not some, the secret sauce. I know it's easy to kind of think, oh, well, it might be this, secret thing that's inside the PS5 that we don't know about yet. No, you're right. It is some secret thing, I guess. Maybe it's not a secret, but it is a thing that we don't yet know about because it's in the process of being made. It's in the process of being developed. And it's Sony's studios, okay? You want to know what made the PlayStation 4 so great? It wasn't some secret sauce. Sure, maybe it had a slight hardware advantage over the Xbox One. And sure, maybe a lot of people really ran with that during that time period. But the truth is, what made the PlayStation 4 generation so great, no one's sitting here saying, yeah, remember that time Battlefield 4 was 1080p on the PS4 and it was only 720p on the Xbox One? That's what made the PS4 a great generation. No, that's a nice little perk. It's the games that Sony delivered, and that's the secret. Okay, that is where you're going to see the PS5's power and potential unlocked. Even the most hardcore Xbox fanboys cannot deny this. That doesn't mean that the PS5 is suddenly more powerful or more capable than the Series X, because frankly, that's not relevant, right? When it comes to third-party titles, I'm not going to say that the PS5 is going to consistently and always throughout the next couple of years outdo the Xbox Series X, because it might not. No one really knows right now. Who knows what will happen when developers are fully using the tools of the Xbox Series X. But what I do believe is that the PS5 will do just fine, okay, when it comes to third-party multi-plat titles. I don't think that there's going to be any major disparity that's going to cause people to freak out and lose their minds. I mean, there might be. But iSiler18, you're saying, chat, the real secret sauce is MBG finally streaming The Last of Us 2 on permadeath mode. Let's make it happen. Dude, that would be that would be terrible. I could see myself making it pretty far and then dying and then just raging and being like, I'm never doing this again. RA89, you're saying average results on third party are Xbox Series X 20% plus better resolution and PS5 5% better frame rates. All this with boosted clocks and dev kit native builds. See, but here's the thing, though. At what point did I say that that's not, like, dude, I get what you're saying, man. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from the Series X. That's the whole point of what I'm saying, RA89. I'm not trying to downplay the Series X. I'm sure that in the future, if everything that Microsoft has been touting about the Series X and everything that it's hardcore fan base has been touting about, wait for the tools, wait till developers get more familiar, so on and so forth. Maybe that'll be true. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe 2 years from now, there will be a, significant resolution difference for some third-party games between the PS5 and Series X. But right now, I don't know, man. Like you're saying average results 20+% better. I mean, what does that really mean though? Like we're talking about high resolutions right now. So I'm not necessarily sure what this means, because every game I played on the PS5 looks great resolution wise. There hasn't been a single game I played on the PS5 from a third party developer where, I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, this really doesn't look that good, or the resolution looks low. It doesn't look crisp. You know what I mean? Like, also, here's another thing I want to bring up, and this is actually going to kind of fold into the second topic we discuss. It has to do with DLSS-like technology, where it's going to essentially like upscale. We're starting to see this technology grow. We're starting to see it become more relevant because it produces incredible results, and it's beginning to produce results that make it clear that developers relying on overhead as a means to push higher resolutions is not necessarily a thing that we're going to have to worry about in the future. So I guess all I'm trying to say right now is that if the biggest advantage the Series X has right now is it has a slightly higher resolution for some games, and maybe in the future, maybe it'll produce higher resolutions for more games than what we see for the PS5, I'm not sure that that's an advantage that's really going to be looked at in a significant way. I mean, when you look at the PS5 and the Xbox One, that was something that was heavily talked about, but this type of upscaling technology that we're seeing today was not anywhere near as good as it is now. It wasn't even really a thing back then, as far as I'm aware anyway. But it's certainly going to be a thing for both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. Now, you could argue maybe Microsoft could use whatever excess overhead they may have for something else. That's a possibility. Chase the Chosen One, you're saying if the Series X can't maintain 60 FPS at native 4K, what's the point of native 4K? I don't know. To be honest, it's weird because every time we see Digital Foundry cover this, they're always saying it's some kind of software bug. It's not hard. I mean, they're claiming it's not hardware related, but yet we see it so consistently. And I'm not saying it's even that big of a deal. Like the few frame drops we see with the Series X, come on, like who's not going to buy a Series X if they want one because of that? No one. It doesn't matter. Just like no one's not going to buy a PS5 if the Series X offers a slightly higher resolution in some third-party games. That's the whole point I'm trying to get at here, guys, is I know we've been talking about the Xbox a lot and we're kind of doing comparisons, and I know that that's what I'm doing, but it's to serve a greater point here, and that point is that do not listen to anybody who tries to tell you for some reason, for one reason or another, that the PS5 is going to get left behind, that it's a half-baked console, that Sony didn't make purposeful decisions with the architecture, that in the future games are just going to look and run so much better on the competition and not on the PS5. Guys, games are going to look and run just fine on the PS5. They already are. They will continue to do so. And Sony's first-party studios are going to be the ones who really prove what the PS5 is truly capable of. And come on, guys, look at what they did with a damn PS4 Pro, a 4.2 teraflop machine, okay? Look at what they did. Look at what Naughty Dog did with The Last of Us Part 2. Look at what Kojima Productions did with Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, God of War. Like, I just don't understand how people can see these results and still walk away with this notion like, yeah, the PS5 is just going to struggle, man, I'll tell you why people walk away with that. It's because they're paying attention to these people who have an agenda, and their agenda is to try to make it seem as though if you are somebody who is, you're interested in the PS5, you want to invest in a PS5 and the PlayStation 5 ecosystem, they want to fearmonger and make it sound like you're making a bad investment because this is a poorly designed, half-baked console, okay? If you don't want a PS5, that's fine. But please do not, stray away from it because people are trying to convince you that games are going to look and run terrible, because I assure you, they do not. They will not. It's baffling to me, man. Denary Rollins, you're saying, remember, there's reports that Sony will acquire AAA studios, so we'll see some games in 2022. Also, those numbers about the Xbox Series X look made up. I mean, I don't know where he's pulling that data from. I don't have that stuff right in front of me to just refer to, but all I'm going to say is that, you know, let me make it clear, all right? And I guess this is where we'll end this topic because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but let me make it clear. We were told by a hardcore group of Xbox fans, by a lot of Xbox fans, thanks to intense Xbox marketing that was focused on the power factor, we were told that we would see a significant performance delta, that we would see a significant disparity between specifically multi-platform titles running on the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Now, we are, 3-4 months removed from these consoles being out. We've had multiple multi-platform titles tested by not just Digital Foundry, because they're not the be-all, end-all, but other outlets as well, other individuals who do this type of stuff. And we're not seeing those results. Now, if you want to tell me and others, just wait, that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But don't tell us to just wait and then also push this notion that not only you're going to have to wait to see these results with the Series X, but the PS5 is going to, it's just not going to produce anywhere near the same results. That's where you're, in my opinion, you're taking it too far. Okay, that's where I kind of have to call that out and kind of bring us back to reality here, where it's like, come on now, you know, love your Xbox Series X, love the Xbox brand, promote the Xbox brand, talk about it exciting in an excited way. If you're excited about it, tell people why it's going to be great a year from now, 2 years from now, why it's great right now. That's fine. But when you're doing that and then you're talking about, you know, like the PS5 is some half big, you know what I mean? Like, that's all I'm trying to say. Sergeant Salty Nuts, you're saying Mark Cerny is just a genius. He told us T-flops don't matter, and it shows. Well, I will tell you this. If T-flops do matter, it has yet to prove why it matters. Maybe in the future it will, but I'm telling you, man, people, this isn't a matter of PS5 having some kind of secret sauce or anything like that, all right? I already told you what the secret sauce is. The first-party studios. It's the talent that Sony has. But I really do think people are still, you know, they wonder why I run with, you know, I try to basically defend the PS5 so much. It's because I see so many people who are like just talking about it like it's some kind of piece of junk. Like, it's not that I feel the need to defend my plastic box. It's just, can we not make stuff up and make it seem, and fearmonger? That's all it is. That's all it is, you know? The Furious, you're saying you can notice 50 FPS versus 60 FPS more than 20% resolution. The lower resolution 60 FPS experience is more enjoyable in my opinion. PS5's higher clocks are great for high FPS. Yeah, you do bring up a good point there, man. That's basically what I've been... What, dude, oh my God. I'm annoyed really quick. I'm annoyed because I keep pausing the damn game. You can tell when I'm playing this... this game, I'm busy doing stuff in between because I keep pausing it for some reason. Anyway, that is a good point, man. Every time I talk about this and every time I mention the fact that, you know, the PS5 seems to offer a solid 60 frames per second across the board with like either no dips, or when it dips, it's literally by like 1, maybe 2 frames here and there. You know, the biggest thing that people were saying they wanted to see with these consoles is consistent frame rate. Higher frame rates more consistently. And that's what the PS5 is delivering. Again, you know, you do point out, it's not like the Xbox Series X with some multi-platform titles dipping to maybe 50 frames per second or even like 48 or something for just a couple seconds. It's not like that's like, oh my God, like that's horrific. Like, I can't believe this. But you're right, it can be noticeable. You know, I did have this issue with Call of Duty on the PS5 with rate because they were... For some reason, when you enabled ray tracing, this was when Call of Duty first came out on the PS5, when you enabled ray tracing on it, it would constantly drop to like the 50s and 40s. And yeah, when playing zombies, I 100% noticed that. Granted, it's been fixed since then, but that was simply due to I'm assuming a bug, or they had to do something with the ray tracing. Maybe they put it out too soon, I'm not sure. But yeah, it is noticeable. And so the fact that the PS5 shows that it's having just no issue, you know, brute forcing that 60 FPS. And so, you know, people, I'll get to the other 2 super chats in a second, but, you know, people want to keep yelling, it's optimization. developers need more time. Guys, you need to get it through your heads. Not you, just the people who, you know who I'm talking about. The PS5 is also not fully optimized for. Just because developers have had more time with it, I'm going to tell you this right now. Even though developers may have had a little bit more time with the PS5, it's far from being fully optimized. The reason why devs are having such a difficult time wrapping their head around optimization for the Series X with their games is not because they haven't had enough time with it. I mean, obviously that's a reason why, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is because Microsoft switched their development environment to the GDK toolset. That's why. Sony didn't do this. Sony kept the same toolset with, more tools, obviously, better tools, more things at developers' disposal that they can use when developing games for the PS5, but they kept it the same to make sure that the transition was as smooth and easy as possible. That does not mean developers are fully optimizing for this console right now. That's what I'm trying to tell you. These guys are trying to run with this rhetoric that, because devs had a little bit, maybe a couple more months with PS5 dev kits than they did with the Series X, that's why we're seeing this. No, that's not why. Okay, now if you want to make the argument maybe with the GDK, when they fully are able to embrace this tool set, maybe we'll see some bigger results. Yeah, I'm never discounting that. Anything is possible. We'll have to wait and see, but we also cannot ignore the hard facts that are right in front of our face. Question mark, you're saying, what's up, bro? This is getting annoying. Why are the Xbox fans continuously making excuses for themselves, from the tools to the power, etc.? I don't know, man. To me, it's because they just want to believe that this is what people want more than anything. Like, there's no doubt that Xbox has more momentum than it's ever had, and it certainly has more potential than it's ever had, but I just don't understand. I guess the only reason is because I continue to fall for the bait, just like I am right now. I'm talking about Xbox, I'm talking about power, I'm talking about resolution and frame rates and stuff, and we all know at the end of the day that's not what matters most, but I still fall for the bait, Debout12, you're saying some people seem to forget that the PS5 was running Unreal Engine 5 no problem. You can say it wasn't gameplay, but the PS5 was chosen for a reason. That's what I'm saying, dude. Like, these are just hard facts. Joshua Reese, you're saying I missed your super chat. Sorry, buddy. You're saying, is the Series S just dead in the water now? I don't think it's dead in the water. I think if there's anything that can really help the Series S in the long run, I think it's going to be DLSS or maybe Microsoft's Direct ML or maybe the super resolution coming from AMD. I don't think it's dead in the water, but I don't know, man. Like, it's good for people who don't care about this stuff, I guess. But I don't know. I wouldn't call it dead in the water, but it's not a console that's really relevant to me. It's only relevant to me to the extent where will it eventually, potentially, hold back next gen games, dude. I see these Xbox guys, these Xbox fans. They come here like, the PS5 is holding back the Xbox Series X. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how are you going to make a statement like that when the Series S exists? Denari, you're saying, to all the Xbots, what games do y'all have? That's all I'm saying. Look, man, I'm not trying to make it sound like Xbox is bad or there's something wrong with it. If anything, I'm just trying to kind of push back against these individuals who they try to make it sound like they're not trying to take a big dump on PlayStation 5 and its fans. And it's like, you're clearly trying to take a big dump on PlayStation 5 and its fans. And I find it, I find the conversation entertaining. I don't mind a little bit of back and forth. I just, there's no reason to take it that seriously, but there's a lot of people who leave comments who, at me on Twitter and whatever, and they're like telling me this and telling me that. I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about, man? Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Like, is there something I'm missing? I admit that there are times where I talk about the technical side of things and I'm not as well versed in it, as maybe some other individuals, but I like to think that I'm pretty decent at seeing the bigger picture, and the bigger picture here to me is, look, the PS5 is a great console. Sony studios are going to produce amazing results, and I have faith that Sony knew what they were doing with the development of the PS5. I had faith that Sony, they made a console where they knew developers were going to have no problem optimizing for third-party multi-plat titles. And the law of diminishing returns is a real thing that exists. And I think it is certainly applicable to this next generation of consoles where there may be some differences here and there, but we're already seeing the law of diminishing returns in effect. Just because the PS5 may have a slight performance advantage in some games, does it actually matter? Does it in a practical sense here, is it really going to make somebody throw down their Xbox controller and be like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to the PS5. No, that's not what's going to make them do that. What's going to make them do that is they see some great games that Sony's offering that look incredible, and then they're going to put down their Xbox controller and pick up their DualSense and play those games, And if they like it enough, they might just stay there and make that the place where they play all of their multiplats, It's not all just about who has the shiniest, prettiest game. It's really not. I think it's about who has the highest quality game, who has the best game in general. Like, how good is this game to play? Is it the full package? Morgan, you're saying the crazy thing is the Series S has been available on Best Buy for over 5 days now, and it's still available. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like the Series S, it has the potential to sell the best due to that price point, but I don't know, how many people feel that they need to, upgrade their Xbox One S to the Series S? They seem so similar in so many ways, I feel like that's just a marketing issue that, that Microsoft still has. We'll see. We'll see in the long run. Fantasy Gamer, you're saying this is pointless. Just enjoy the games you play. We are all still doing this 4 months after the console releases. Yeah, I know, man. Honestly, I talk about it because I know that some people are interested in it, but because it's just something that I guess it just comes with the territory here. It's easy for me to fall for the bait because I constantly see it in front of my face. But I just kind of want to talk positively about the PS5 and let people know, look, not sure what happened with my gameplay there, but Ruben Martinez, you're saying, hey, MBG, have you seen Horizon gameplay on PC and ultra wide? It looks awesome. I am personally excited for PlayStation games on PC. I have not seen it. I've heard good things about it. I gotta say, man, I don't have a problem with Sony putting their PS4 exclusives on the PC. I know that it leads into the conversation of is Sony losing their identity with PlayStation, and whatnot. And I'm not going to get into that right now. What I will say is if they're going to put all the extra bells and whistles and take the extra dev time to optimize Horizon Zero Dawn for PC, I am baffled as to why Sony did not do anything for Horizon Zero Dawn for PS5. I think that's a little bit unfair. I know that Horizon Forbidden West is coming soon, but still, it's just not a good look, Sony. I really think that you should do something for Horizon Zero Dawn on the PS5. You're saying do your thing, MBG, Xbox need some pushback. And that's the thing, dude. I'm just, it's not like it's that serious. I literally I have to go to war with these people. No, come on. There's much more important things in life. But, I care about this medium and I care about PlayStation. I care about these consoles. I care about the conversations surrounding them. And I listen in to what some people have to say. And I'm just I don't, it's really weird to me. I think that's why I talk about it so much. It's because I don't understand it. I don't understand what is so negative about the PS5. I get these people who are literally sending me lists of things, that are wrong. And I'm reading them and I'm like, I don't understand. These are just small, tiny nitpick things that most people literally don't care about, but yet you want to constantly talk into a microphone each week or type on Twitter each week about why there's something wrong. I guess that's, people are kind of gravitate towards what they don't understand in an effort and a hope to try to understand it. And I guess that's what I'm trying to do right now. DeBow, thank you so much for the generous super chat, man. You're saying PS5 was built to be optimized like an iPhone. This is coming from a Samsung fan. I foresee the PS5 outperforming the SX drastically in the coming years. Why don't we talk about compression, game compression, LOL. PS5 is half that of the SX for third party. Yeah, I do agree, man. We've already seen the Kraken compression technology utilized by Remedy Games for Control, and it has produced incredible results. It's these are things that we do need to acknowledge. These are tangible benefits that do matter to people. I would argue that having a game's storage size cut in half is maybe a more tangible benefit to gamers than a 15 to 20% resolution boost that you're going to be hard pressed to actually notice, unless you're sitting like a foot away from your screen. Anyway, guys, we're going to move on to the next topic, but I had to take some time to talk about that because, look, at the end of the day, Sony's secret sauce, it's not the specs inside of the PS5 per se. It's what the developers are going to do with the specifications inside of the PS5. It's what Sony's first-party studios are going to achieve. And, Insomniac Games said it themselves. They're just scratching the surface of what's capable in the PS5. And the same goes for the Series X. Microsoft's first-party studios are going to have to be the ones to really optimize and maximize what they can get out of the Series X hardware. But what I will say is that I have not been that impressed with most of Microsoft's first-party studios. I mean, what the Coalition does with Gears and 343, I don't even know if I can say that with Halo at this point. We'll have to wait to see with Halo Infinite. But compared to what Sony studios have done, this is why I'm excited for what the PS5 is going to do. Anyway, we're going to move on from that. If you guys could do me a favor and hit that like button, I would really appreciate that. Likes really do help the podcast out. I'm going to move on to the second topic here, and this is a more positive topic in general for the PlayStation 5. There seems to be some confusion surrounding this, thanks to me explaining this terribly in my video dedicated to it, but also some other aspects. So the PlayStation 5 may be getting a performance boost courtesy of AMD at some point in the future. Apparently, AMD has been working on a DLSS competitor for some time. This was revealed by Linus Tech Tips, who is, I'd say, a very credible source. He kind of let it slip that this will be made available for all of their RDNA cards, and it's not just going to be reserved for one high-end card. So this does include the PlayStation 5 as well as the Xbox Series X and S. This DLSS-like technology is currently being called Super Resolution, although I don't think that's the final name. I think that's just what people are calling it right now. And DLSS is an AI scaling technology, and it takes lower resolutions and reconstructs it to essentially replicate a higher resolution, such as native 4K. So it's basically taking what is a native 1080p resolution and upscaling it and reconstructing it to produce results that can actually make the image quality look superior to native 4K in some cases. Now, this technology is rumored to be releasing in April or May. That's just a rumor. We don't have confirmation of that. And there's some interesting information here that I want to go over provided by videocards.com. And this is something that's kind of important for the PlayStation 5 specifically. And so it says AMD's implementation is supposedly based on DirectML API, which is part of Windows Machine Learning, the Windows Machine Learning library. This library can be used for more than just super resolution and can be easily ported to Xbox. It is unclear how, this super resolution would be implemented for the PlayStation 5. Fortunately for AMD, both consoles use RDNA-based GPUs, and fortunately for PC gamers, it could mean that the technology will be polished for launch across all devices. Now, this part is pretty important, in particular for PlayStation 5 owners and fans. This is a situation where Sony is undoubtedly working with AMD to allow this technology to be implemented into the PS5. I think it's basically going to be a software solution. I'm a little bit unclear about that. The PlayStation 5 is a highly customized, kit. One of the things that Mark Cerny was sure to let us know about is that the RDNA architecture is very malleable and customizable. That's why Sony chose to go with it. That's why they chose to make the customizations they did. And so it's very unlikely, because I have seen some people latch onto this and claim that, only Xbox is going to get it. That's not the case. I highly doubt, unless Sony has their own solution that they believe is superior to AMD's super resolution or DLSS-like technology, which they might only because They are apparently working on something themselves. They have been working on something themselves, specifically for PS5 games. We don't have much info on it. We've only seen that through a patent. But if AMD, and another thing we don't really know is just how good this technology is going to be, because it might not be that good. We don't know. We are going to have to wait to see the results that this produces, if it's going to be able to produce the same type of results we see, or something that can compete with like DLSS 2.0, which has certainly produced some impressive results. And this is going to be a pretty important thing for, I'd say, PS5 more so than Xbox, simply because the PlayStation 5 does have less compute units overall. It does have a smaller GPU, and because of that, the chances of Sony in some cases having to lower the resolution in order to kind of save on resources may be a thing that they run into more often, since it's more of a narrow but faster design rather than a wide, design focused on more compute units. And because of that, we may see Sony have to leverage this tech more than, say, Microsoft, although it depends. It depends how developers want to approach it. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is this is going to be a big deal for the PlayStation 5 if this technology from AMD does turn out to be something that is very good, very useful, very easy to implement, and something that produces great results. It is interesting to me that AMD wants to kind of release this across all of RDNA. And the big question I have is if Sony is going to talk about it or not, because they might not. Like, this technology could release, and Sony may, implement it into the PS5. They may I'm sure, like, the way I would see it happening is, and there I go, pausing my game again. Sony would, I think, just update their PS5 API to enable it, essentially. That's my guess. iSiler18, you're saying PS5 next-gen updates have arrived quite fast, honestly. Sure, Horizon is soon, and Death Stranding was confirmed. Much prefer every game take the Final Fantasy VII upgrade route. God of War update is lazy, in my opinion. I don't agree with that. I mean, I don't want to see Sony's... If I find out that the reason why God of War didn't get a proper PS5 update, although I don't know, man, people are pretty impressed with it, but I'm pretty sure God of War is the next game that's going to PC. I'm fairly confident in that. But I don't want Sony Studios to take their development time and resources, which are very limited, and spend that on updating older games for the PS5. I also don't want to see them spending it on focusing on PC. I want to see Sony Studios just kind of do everything they can and put all of their efforts into the upcoming games so we can get the best possible results. Mr. Hamster, you're saying, hey, what's up, man? What's going on, Mr. Hamster? It's been a little while. Glad to see you could make it. So, yeah, I mean, look, getting back to this AMD super resolution technology, this has the potential to be very beneficial for future PlayStation titles, because we've already seen the results that checkerboard rendering can produce. We've already seen all throughout the PS4 Pro, what Sony's studios, and not just Sony studios, but other third-party studios as well, can achieve by basically trying to replicate a 4K resolution. Granted, and this was the mistake I made in my video, dynamic resolution has nothing to do with this DLSS-like technology. I failed to explain in my video that there is a complete separation between those two things, but I was just trying to make it clear that this DLSS-like technology, whether it's Sony's that they develop on their own, whether they use this super resolution tech from AMD, or whether it ends up being something else, it's something that has the potential to free up a ton of resources for developers. So they don't have to brute force their way to produce a native 4K image or anything close to it. They can produce a native 1080p image, implement this DLSS-like technology, and essentially what we will see is a 4K image, something that can actually produce results that are better than a native 4K image. And so all of those extra resources that are left over can be pushed for something else. They can be used on something else. And it's a pretty big deal. And it's something that both Sony and Microsoft are going to certainly attempt to leverage going forward. And I think they're going to need to, honestly. I don't think it's a matter of if they're going to leverage it. I think that they're going to have to. I think that it's something that will produce significant enough results that could potentially help them kind of keep pace with the the improvements that we're going to see on the tech side of things. So that is another way the PlayStation 5's full potential could potentially, be unlocked. It's through this new DLSS-like technology. And this is not something that's, I don't want to see people run with this and be like, oh, this is like the 13 T-flops or the secret sauce. No. This is not anything that's secret. This is something that AMD is working on. We just don't know for certain yet if it's going to be implemented into the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Again, this was something that was mentioned by Linus from Linus Tech Tips, and he seems to be under the impression that that's what they're going to do. So we don't know if he was like briefed on that or if he was under some kind of NDA and he accidentally let it slip. We don't know. And you're saying this holds true for the Series S also? Yeah, exactly. So, the Series S is arguably the console that could benefit the most from something like this technology. And maybe this is one of the reasons why Microsoft felt confident in producing it and giving it such a weaker GPU, because maybe they realized that we're not going to have to in the future brute force our way. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds. But one thing I am looking forward to is hopefully getting confirmation from Sony or AMD or whatever that this technology will actually be used by the PS5. I feel like Sony is very, very pretty much, I don't even want to say very quiet. They're basically just silent when it comes to the tech talk, the spec talk. They don't talk about that stuff at all. They kind of did it first and then they just stopped. And Microsoft always talks about it. Xbox fans always talk about it. So I don't know. Maybe they don't talk about it because it's really just not the most important thing. So yeah, with that being said, we are going to move on to the next topic here. So if you could do me a big favor and hit the like button, again, to help the podcast out, I would really appreciate that. And this topic is going to be focused on AAA games, more specifically Sony's, I don't know if I should use the word obsession with big hit AAA games. I feel like using that word is not good because it makes it sound like it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think that we have to have this conversation because it is becoming very clear what Sony's plans are for the PlayStation 5 generation, what their plans are for their studios over the next 5 to 10 years, potentially, maybe even beyond that. And so, I want to talk about this because last week we covered Sony's decision to downsize Japan's studio due to them not producing any major hit AAA titles for quite some time. And now we are hearing that Sony's London studio, apparently their next project has, quote, huge potential, unquote, and will be a very high quality game. So the idea that Sony's focus is heavily leaning and shifting more so to AAA games is, interestingly enough, one that not everyone is on board with. And so I kind of just want to have this conversation because, in my opinion, this is the thing that Sony does best, and I actually am happy to see them move in this direction even more so than they already were. It's not that I don't like smaller games. It's not that I don't have an appreciation for indie games, but just to be completely honest, I don't really play them that often. I really don't. I do like indie games. I do like smaller games. But I would be lying if I said that I get excited when I see Sony announce a smaller title. To be honest, this is like the main reason why I left Xbox when I did, because it just seemed like they weren't producing any exciting AAA titles. They just weren't producing anything that was interesting to me. They were constantly putting out these smaller, seemingly AA games, and they were putting them on Game Pass, and the conversation started to go into the conversation of, just this idea that, oh, it's Game Pass filler, which I'm not going to get into that here, but I looked at what Sony was doing, and I'm like, you're saying, of course, you only care about AAA games, dude bro games. No, okay. So here's where that statement from you is kind of strange, because Sony's games are not dude bro. In fact, I think that they're anything but that. I think that they're the polar opposite. In fact, you could argue that Microsoft's games are probably leaning more towards the dude bro. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I do like my fair share of dude bro type games, but I just feel that this is the direction I'm happy to see Sony go into. The only thing I do want to say here is I do think that they have to be careful, because they still need to have a place always for smaller games, for AA games, for indie games. And I don't think that that's going to stop. I mean, one thing we have to acknowledge is when Sony had their two big events in 2020, there was a pretty prominent focus on indie games and smaller titles. And there has been in their stated plays. But I don't understand how people, for the people who are not on board with this, just look at the stated play that happened recently. Look at the pushback that Sony seemingly got for not showing enough AAA titles, right? I mean, I knew that there wasn't going to be a huge emphasis on AAA titles, but a lot of people apparently didn't know that. And, I cannot blame Sony for choosing to double and even triple down in this area and make it pretty much their main priority. You look at the results that their games produce from just a business perspective and also a critical side as well, right? Like games like God of War, even a game like Days Gone, I've tried to explain to people. People wonder why, how is Days Gone getting a sequel, right? It's not confirmed officially, but come on. There's enough evidence to point towards Days Gone 2 being in the works. And people ask, how does that game get a sequel, right? How does Days Gone 2 earn a sequel when what is it, sitting at a 7 or 6 point something on Metacritic? Not that that matters really that much. But when it launched, it didn't get a lot of great review scores. I will tell you why. It's because it sold like crazy. It's one of the best-selling PS4 games of the generation. That's why it's getting a sequel. And I'm glad, because even though the game may not be perfect to a lot of people, there was a lot of potential, and they improved it dramatically since, and there's just so much potential for what they could achieve with the sequel. But it's because it sold really well. So ideally, what Sony's hope is that Days Gone 2 will be even bigger and even better, to the point where it's going to sell better than Days Gone did, and it will get, hopefully, better critical reception, right? These games they do monster numbers for Sony, and people love them, okay? People love the AAA games. That's just the way it is. And I've seen a lot, some people say, well, Sony's focused on just producing nothing but hit big games. They're basically becoming the Hollywood of game development. They're already the Hollywood of game development. They are, I don't know why anybody thinks they're not. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I do understand that you don't want to see things become too overly generic. You don't want to see things become too overly repetitive, but I haven't really seen that. I'd say that the main similarity that these games share with one another is they're all, not all of them, but a lot of them are open world. A lot of them are action adventure. A lot of them are third person, and a lot of them have a heavy emphasis on story and characters and, telling a meaningful story. And I don't think that those are bad things. So if Sony's goal is to try to mold almost every single one of their first party studios into AAA studios that can eventually be looked at in the same light as Guerrilla Games, as Sony Santa Monica, I'm all for that. Give them the opportunity, because I promise you, if Days Gone 2 does everything that I think it will do and it has the potential to do, and it gets the same type of it has the potential to basically elevate Sony Bend. They're the next Sucker Punch. I feel like Days Gone was kind of the equivalent of what we saw with Infamous Second Son, where it's like, it's a good game, it's a solid game, but we can tell that you haven't hit your full potential yet. And then they do something like Ghost of Tsushima, and then you're like, there we go. Now you're hitting your stride. Now you're like, that is organic growth. That's what Sony wants to do. Sucker Punch went from being a AAA studio to an even bigger AAA studio. Sony Bend, I think, is next, where they're AAA studio with Days Gone. Now they're going to be an even bigger, more well-respected AAA studio with more prestige if they can knock it out of the park with Days Gone 2. iSiler18, you're saying, in my opinion, no one is obligated to like indie games just for the sake of it. I, for one, find them very boring. Death Stranding was popped on and it ended up pooped on. And it ended up, I don't know why I said popped, ended up being my game of the year. Everyone likes what they like. I agree. Like if you're a fan of indie games, what I'm trying to say is like, you don't have to worry. Like Sony's not abandoning indies. Indies are always going to flock to PlayStation just because of how lucrative the PlayStation platform is. But if you are somebody who maybe had hopes that Sony was going to produce more smaller games, I think Sony's solution to producing smaller games is with their partners, with second party and third party relationships. I think that Sony, I think they believe, not only from a business perspective, that AAA games are the way forward for them in every sense of the word, but I think it also has to do with how they're going to compete with Microsoft and the fact that Microsoft is buying up all of these studios. Microsoft is always flexing how many studios they have. And, they have Bethesda now. We don't know if they're going to be exclusive. I think in Sony's mind, or their collective mind over there, the people who make the decisions for Sony, I think the way they see it is the best way that we can compete with that is by basically just being better, right? Like basically having one of our studios be worth like 5 or 7 of Microsoft's studios. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's how Sony feels that they can compete. And I believe that that is how they are going to compete. It's not a matter of quantity. It's a matter of quality. I mention this almost on a weekly basis, but it is worth noting that one of the, I feel like I have to keep saying this because a lot of people do also ask the question, how can Sony keep up? They can obviously keep up the quality, but how are they going to keep up when it comes to quantity? How is Sony going to be able to produce as many games as Microsoft can, or at least try to? How can they get anywhere close to doing so? That's another thing that we have to understand with the PS5 hardware, why it was developed the way it was developed and its architecture. It was done that way so that way game production could basically be doubled. That's why. So that their studios can pretty much double their output. In some cases, maybe even triple their output, especially once everything's streamlined. Adam, you're saying, I believe London Studios' huge potential is for PSVR 2. What are your thoughts? I actually do agree with that fully. I keep saying that London Studio is now being tasked with the opportunity, or given the opportunity, to make a big AAA title with huge potential, as they're saying. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a traditional PlayStation 5 exclusive. I think it's very likely, actually, it could be a big AAA PSVR 2 title. In fact, you could argue that Sony needs that. We may see a situation where Sony wants to have maybe games that are, being developed for both, potentially, right? Like maybe London Studios is working on a traditional AAA PS5 title, but they're also, maybe they're growing their team and they're also kind of expanding it to have a kind of separate game, maybe almost treating it like 2 separate platforms, kind of like what Sony did with the Vita. And they did do that with PSVR as well, where they're going to have like a version of their game for the PS5, and then they're going to have a version of their game for PSVR 2. I think that's a possibility as well. But it could very well just be a dedicated PSVR 2 title, especially when you look at their last work, which was Blood and Truth, which was well received. And there's no doubt that Sony's going to need that, right? If they want to sell PSVR 2 units, they're going to need to have some big, exciting exclusives. So if anything, it's more likely that's what it is. But either way, I think it's going to be big. Kendall Fire 22, you're saying, why doesn't Microsoft allow their studios to make new IP? Most of their studios are working on remaking dormant 20-year-old IP. I don't know, man. That is one of my biggest issues with Microsoft. It has been for a very long time. It's that they just seem so hesitant. I mean, even Sony acknowledged, I think it was Jim Ryan who acknowledged, or somebody at Sony acknowledged recently, that making new AAA IP specifically is extremely risky. And yes, it is, because you have the potential to lose millions and millions of dollars when you think about how big the budget is for a lot of these titles. So I mean, I do fault Microsoft for not doing it, because it's like, you're going to spend $7.5 billion on Bethesda, no problem, but you're not going to greenlight a new IP for one of your bigger studios. There's nothing wrong. You want to bring back Fable. There's nothing wrong with you want to bring back Perfect Dark. But I mean, between these two studios, you're telling me, neither of them could make a new IP. I mean, that's the thing, is like, I love seeing new IP. I love sequels, and I love seeing old IP return, but there needs to be a healthy dose of new IP. And this is another reason why, like, I do defend PlayStation the way I do. And I'm just tired of seeing these Xbox dudes just talk so much shit on them all the time, where it's like, what are you guys smoking? Like, really, what are you smoking? Because the reality of the situation is, Sony did some incredible things throughout the PlayStation 4 generation that Microsoft literally was too afraid to do. Microsoft opened up their checkbook. That's what they did throughout the Xbox One generation, okay, to buy studios and try to secure, some exclusives here and there. But they refused to open their checkbook, and give a big budget to create new IP. Meanwhile, Sony's producing games like Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, and others I'm probably just forgetting off the top of my head, giving games like Death Stranding a chance, right? Like Death Stranding, I don't know if that was a commercial success for Sony. Like Days Gone, we know sold incredibly well for Sony. I can't say that Death Stranding did. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. It certainly was not a critical juggernaut for Sony, but yet they still greenlit it. They still released it on the platform. And you got to give them credit for that, man, because why wasn't it on Xbox? Why didn't Phil Spencer go to Kojima and be like, we need to get you, we want your game, your next game on Xbox? Dude, I'm telling you, Death Stranding would look at the way a lot of these Xbox guys talked about Death Stranding. That game would have flopped on Xbox. Not only just because of the smaller install base, but it's clear that those types of games don't appeal. It just seems to me like, honestly, Xbox's fan base is less willing to give new IP a chance, and that is why I think Phil Spencer doesn't want to greenlight new IP. That's my assumption. Maybe that's too bold of a statement, and I'm not trying to speak on the behalf of all Xbox fans, obviously, because there's a lot of Xbox fans who don't feel that way. But the fact of the matter is, last generation, if you wanted new, exciting AAA IP with cutting-edge graphical technology and amazing gameplay mechanics and open worlds, you were going to PlayStation, dude. You were going to PlayStation. If you wanted that, like, premium steak, you were going to PlayStation. You were not going to Xbox. Now, maybe you can get that on Xbox this generation, but we still don't know. I mean, how AAA is Fable really going to be? How is Fable going to compare to some of the top tier games that Sony has produced? What about Perfect Dark? Why did Drew Murray leave that team after 2 years to go back to Insomniac? I'm not trying. I know Hellblade 2. Well, I don't know. Is Hellblade 2 going to be AAA? I mean, personally, I don't care. It'll probably seem AAA. It's like a AAA, AA game. It's like a hybrid of the two. I'm excited for that. Saying Stalker 2, Fable 3 Avowed. I get that, but like, we don't know. I guess Stalker 2, is that AAA? I'm not familiar with Stalker 2. But dude, like I think you mean Fable 4, by the way. Avowed, we don't know. Like, we just don't. This is where I'm saying, like, Sony already has their flag planted, and they're continuing to double down in their philosophy. Microsoft doesn't. The only flag that Microsoft has planted so far is, we're gonna buy studios and hopefully produce great games. Now, you could say, well, they're definitely going to start producing more AAA games now that they have Bethesda. And that's going to be interesting. We're going to talk about that next, because there's some interesting stuff that's going to be happening with Bethesda soon, which I'm very interested in. Saying Naughty Dog's new IP 2023. Dude, no, I do not think you're going to have to wait till 2023 for a new IP from Naughty Dog. Again, this is where Sony is streamlining the process of game development on the PS5, much more so than it was for the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. So I don't know. I'm not trying to talk down on Xbox, and I didn't mean to turn it into that. It's just that, these are just areas where I look at PlayStation and I understand that a lot of people don't like Jim Ryan. I understand that a lot of people feel like Jim Ryan is going to be PlayStation's undoing. I think it's a bit dramatic. I think we're jumping to conclusions there. I can understand why, people are not a big fan of Jim Ryan. But what I will say is his focus, like he has seemingly the opposite mentality of Phil Spencer in the most important area. Regardless of whether or not Jim Ryan says, hey, we're going to start putting all our games on PC, our games are going to be $70. Okay, I get that. Nobody wants to hear, especially that second part there. But as like he has this seemingly the opposite mentality of Phil Spencer, where it's like we want to hone in on creating as many big AAA games as we can at the highest possible quality we can, and we want to continue to double down and invest on our current studios rather than buying up studios left and right to enable them to, if they haven't made AAA games before, start being able to make AAA games and flesh out their portfolio and kind of bring, really kind of flex their talent in that way. And we're going to allow our studios who are already successful at making AAA games, we're going to enable them to grow even bigger, to make more than one AAA game at a time, and give them the opportunity to make new IP. That's what I like about Sony. And I know, again, that not everybody's a big fan of Jim Ryan, but at least they're doing that. And if they start to stray away from that, then I'm going to have a serious problem, because that's what matters most to me. Honestly, like that is what matters most to me at the end of the day. Primal Plasma, you're saying you can't expect creativity from a company whose most important and profitable product is Office 365. Yeah, I guess so. You can't really argue with that, can you, Primal Plasma? Question mark, you're saying, let me ask, would you rather have a system pleaser or a system seller? For me, I want a system seller. Yeah, I would choose that as well. And, I have a video that I'm pretty sure I'm going to release today, later on, because I have it made. And this video focuses on an article that was written up by Kotaku. It was written up by an individual who apparently has both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. And the title of the article was something along the lines of like, sorry, PS5, the Xbox Series X is my main go-to console now, or my preferred console. And I went through the article, and in this video, I kind of did a reaction, and they brought up some good points. But the thing that really stuck with me is at one point in the article, they were saying that they were playing on their PS5 and they were playing all of the games that Sony released. And then once they were finished playing those games, they started moving over to Xbox because they liked the convenience of Xbox. But then they said towards the end that, and it was just weird to me that, once Sony starts releasing their games like Ratchet and Clank and Horizon and more in the future, they're probably going to move back to PS5. And I'm like, do you see though? Like, do you see even people who are writing these articles up saying why they like the Xbox better? Like he literally didn't list games as a reason. He listed older games. He said he was spending most of his time playing Halo the Master Chief Collection and Super Lucky's Tale for some reason. But then he also says, but I'm going to go back to my PS5 when Sony releases their games that are coming out, this year, right? And it's just weird to me, man. And what was weird to me is I saw some Xbox people like kind of running with that article and being like, people prefer, and yeah, there are some people who prefer Xbox because they don't care about the exclusive games, but I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like the article read kind of like an infomercial or something, or like it was written up by a Microsoft employee where they're like talking about all of these like buzzwords and marketing points. One of the things he mentioned is that I can play 360 games on my Xbox Series X, but I can't play PS3 games on the PS5. And I'm like, look, I know even when I covered the rumors that the PS5 was going to be backwards compatible with PS3, even in those rumor videos, I said, but who's really going to buy a PS? Like, is that the determining factor for literally anybody? Oh, well, it doesn't play PS3 games, so there's no point in me buying it. Like, come on, man. Like, it's ridiculous, dude. True Witty, you're saying, heard AC is going to Japan, I guess, following Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, I saw that too. You're saying, MBG, are you going to put someone down for enjoying what they like? Absolutely not. In fact, in that video, when I do release it, you'll see I said in the video, like, dude, this guy's allowed to say whatever the hell he wants. He can have any reason in the world. He could literally come out here and say PlayStation sucks. That's why I chose Xbox. And hey, that's his opinion. He's entitled to that. And he can enjoy Xbox all he wants for whatever reason he wants. I just was, examining the article and reacting to it and kind of just giving my own thoughts on like whether I agree with it or not, right? That doesn't mean he's not allowed to enjoy what he wants. I'm not putting somebody down. To me, it just seems ridiculous that like, you're going to buy a Series X to play 360 games. Like, come on. At that point, just stick with the Xbox One X or the Xbox One S, right? I don't know. To me, it just, in my opinion, the article did a good job in highlighting the big issue that doesn't surround the PlayStation 5, is not going to surround the PlayStation 5, but still surrounds the Xbox. And that is that, PlayStation 5 has some great games. They already have great games out of the gate. They got great games coming. Granted, I'm sure every development team is suffering some delays and, things are going to take a little bit longer than maybe we originally anticipated. But yeah, I just wanted to have this conversation around Sony's focus on AAA. I'm very excited to see what London Studio is going to be doing next. I just love Sony's output, man. I'm not saying that I need to love every single game that they put out. It's not about that, but I love their output. I just love the approach they're taking with the PS5, where they're focused, like they understand what is most appealing about the PlayStation brand, and that is their big hit games from their first-party studios that just knock it out of the park and, yeah, are system sellers. And on top of that, they're trying to partner with more third parties and having more second party relationships and deals to kind of fill in the gaps between when their big first party studios, release games. And then on top of that, they're also trying to strike deals with indie developers and smaller games as well, and I just really appreciate the approach that Sony is taking. I am ultimately excited to see what Xbox produces as well. I really am. Like, I genuinely mean that. There are games that Xbox currently has in development that I am very much looking forward to, but it's just that at this moment in time, I'm not saying that everybody needs to like what I like, obviously. I'm not saying that, hey, if I say I like Sony's AAA first-party titles, that you should too. What I will say is that I find it interesting that most people seemingly are for that as well. There's a reason why the PS5 is selling so well. There's a reason why the PS4 sold so well. And so, yeah, I don't know, man. I really appreciate the direction Sony's going in, and I'm all for it. Let me see here. So a lot of people are probably wondering, what is this surprise that Sony may have, right? That's the next topic we're going to move on to. Guys, hit that like button. I really need your help with this podcast. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes, maybe 450 likes. That would really help it out tremendously. I would like to try to have maybe close to 600 likes, maybe more than that before the time the podcast ends. So hit that like button if you haven't already. But the next topic we're going to talk about, I think, is one of the more, all of these topics are interesting, but this one to me is particularly interesting because of how soon all of this may go down. Now, the reason why I put in my title and I'm talking about the idea of a potential PlayStation surprise is because I didn't want to just take the same angle that we have continued to take when it comes to the conversation surrounding the Microsoft Bethesda acquisition. The reason why we're talking about this once again, though, is because apparently this deal is going to be closing soon or may have already closed. So does Sony have something big up their sleeve potentially that they've been saving? I'm asking this because apparently Microsoft's Bethesda purchase is now finalized, and rumors are swirling that seem to indicate that Xbox is getting ready to make either some big announcement or at the very least talk about this deal in a big way as soon as next week. And, what this deal will mean for the industry, for the brand. And there's no doubt that it's going to have an impact on what it means for PlayStation owners. So is there any chance that Sony may have been purposely saving something big in their back pocket ever since they heard that this acquisition was something that was taking place between Microsoft, and they were essentially waiting for Microsoft to come out and potentially confirm that Bethesda's games will be exclusive to the Xbox platform going forward. I don't think it's too far-fetched. I don't want to say, hey, like, for sure, Sony's going to come out here and they're going to announce, another big AAA game as soon as Microsoft confirms that Bethesda is now officially under Microsoft. And here's the big thing. So, next week, or this week actually, apparently I've been kind of following this because I'm very much interested to see what Microsoft's going to say. Apparently this week, Microsoft is going to talk about this deal, and I'm going to assume, and I really feel as though it's a safe assumption, that they're going to let us know whether or not these games are truly going to be exclusive or not. I mean, maybe they'll just say the same thing they already said, which is it'll be on a case-by-case basis, or maybe they were just waiting for this deal to be finalized and actually own Bethesda before they can come out here and be like, hey, yeah, all these games they're Xbox now. Now, let me tell you, if you go listen to what Xbox fans have to say and you follow any of that stuff, they're all going to tell you the same thing. Oh, yeah, these games, Xbox for sure, 100%. Xbox exclusive, Starfield, you name it, they're all exclusive going forward. Not every single Xbox fan is saying that, but most of them are. And I understand because that is a big win for the Xbox platform if that's true. And if they do that, I would just have a hard time believing that Sony's just going to stay quiet. I just don't believe it. I mean, they might, but I just have this feeling that ever since this announcement, because keep in mind, the announcement that Microsoft was going to acquire Bethesda happened quite some time ago. It happened, I believe, a week before the Xbox Series X launched in early November. So that gives Sony plenty of time to maybe keep one thing, maybe a few things, but certainly at least one thing in their back pocket that maybe, just maybe, they were thinking about showing off in 2020. And then maybe they're like, now, you know what? We might need this because, I think, what was it? Jim Ryan, he answered the question a while ago. He was asked, like, so what do you think about the Bethesda acquisition? What do you think about, are their games going to still come to PlayStation? And I believe, I'm paraphrasing, but he just basically said, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to bring their games over to PlayStation. And so I feel like there's just all of this conversation surrounding this. And, again, I don't want to get anybody's hopes too high. Do not anticipate, do not bank on this idea that Sony's going to suddenly come out and drop a bomb as soon as Microsoft starts talking about the Bethesda acquisition, because it's a guessing game right now. Like, I have no information, I have no sources or anything. All I have is my own speculation, but based off of how Sony likes to function, because let me tell you, Sony does not like to have the limelight stolen from them or the spotlight stolen from them. They really don't. We all know this. Sony will be very strategic. They will be very calculated. And for all we know, I want you to think about the timing really quick. Question mark, you're saying, I heard that Bethesda is getting sued. Is that true or not? I've heard a little bit about that. I'm not going to talk about it because I have no idea what's going on there. As far as I understand, it's something kind of, to simplify it, it's basically like with Fallout 76, they promised that everybody would get all of the DLC for free if you bought this pass, but people are able to make their own content or whatever, and that's not free. And so the argument is, well, that's misleading. People who bought the pass should get that as well because it technically qualifies as DLC. I don't know. It's a little bit confusing. I don't think it got in the way. Everything we've been hearing so far is that the deal went through and the deal is done, and Microsoft's going to be talking about it soon. Now, I don't think that's going to come in the form of an event, but I want you to think about this for a second. I want you to think about the timing of Sony talking, okay? Sony was quiet for the entirety of this year until out of nowhere, in the last week of February, they decided to drop a bunch of information, just like a lot of news all at once. Some of it good, some of it not so good. Now, I don't necessarily want to call it bad news per se, but news that can be perceived as bad or controversial. They come out, they announce PSVR 2, which is nice, but it's in the form of a blog post. They come out, They say, by the way, Gran Turismo 7 is delayed. So not good news, right? I mean, it's fine, but it's not good news. So they announced that. They announced, hey, by the way, Days Gone is going to PC. And, regardless of what Jim Ryan or Sony says, they know that it's going to cause a tizzy in the hardcore PlayStation community. Okay. They come out here and they also kind of acknowledge the fact that we still don't have a timeline for when more PS5s are going to be available. The point is, it was a calculated decision to reveal this information when they did. Now, I was under the impression that Sony revealed this not so ideal information in the last week of February because the next fiscal quarter is going to start, I believe, on March 31st or April 1st. And so they kind of just wanted to get the bad news or maybe and also the state of play, right? The state of play, while I don't necessarily think that Sony believed it was bad, I'm sure that they were aware that they were going to get some backlash for it, at least some. Like, they can't be that out of touch, right? And it all happened at one time. I was under the impression this was because they wanted to get this bad news or get all of this smaller stuff out before the next fiscal quarter started, because that's when they kind of want to have their good news and their good. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe they want to have good announcements before the fiscal quarter ends. It's hard to say. But the point is they had to get it out. Now I'm starting to wonder, did Sony do this because they knew, they were aware? Because let's be honest, the public was made aware of the fact that apparently this Bethesda deal was going to close in the first week of March. The public was aware of this, so surely Sony was aware of it. So maybe Sony said, look, we don't know what Microsoft is going to announce in March. We just know that they're going to announce something. They're going to talk about their Bethesda acquisition. And considering how big of a wave Microsoft made when they announced they were acquiring Bethesda, if they announce formally that all of their games are going to be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem, and this is the articles and the headlines we see written up all week, and maybe, who knows, maybe they even talk a little bit about Starfield, whatever. I'm pretty sure that may be why Sony's we got to get all this news out now. And maybe, just maybe, they're saving a little something to reveal this month to counter that, or at the very least, keep PlayStation also in the headlines in a significant way, to not only counter the Bethesda talk, but just to kind of give them a little bit of momentum going into the next fiscal quarter. Now, again, that is pure speculation on my part, but I feel like the logic holds up, True Witty, you're saying, can Sony or any studio they have make Fallout or Elder Scrolls, and Bethesda is being sued based on, Fallout 4 Creation Club being free, calling it DLC. Okay, I thought it was Fallout 76, my bad. Yeah, I'm not 100% familiar with it. I don't know, honestly, if Sony has a studio that can. I feel like Guerrilla Games is the closest right now with what we see with Horizon, but I do think it would be beneficial for Sony to allow one of their studios to create a big AAA RPG, because that is an area where, they're going to need to do that. You're saying that's a lot of mental gymnastics. I mean, I don't know. Is it really mental gymnastics, though? For all we know, keep in mind, when I say that Sony may be saving a surprise, that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, this is it, guys, Silent Hill. I don't even know if Silent Hill's a real thing anymore. But I'm not, or it's going to be Metal Gear or a new studio acquisition announcement. No, I'm talking maybe it's something simpler than that. Maybe it's something as simple as, here's the first God of War trailer, here's the first gameplay trailer for Horizon. Normally that's stuff that Sony would, and again, here's what I'll say, okay? My assumption here, my speculation, I think Sony has something ready to go. They have a round in the chamber, and they're ready to fire if need be. But I think that highly depends on what exactly Microsoft does in the month of March, because there has been a lot of rumors and speculations that, they're going to announce an event, and they're going to have this event, and it's going to be like a Bethesda dedicated event. But it's seeming more likely at this point that that's not what it's going to be. It's probably going to be some type of just kind of PR thing where they start to go around, they have Todd Howard and the studios talk. I do think that Microsoft could reveal their plans for exclusivity during this. I don't think that that's something that they necessarily need to announce on stage at an event or during a digital event. I think that they could announce that, but if it's nothing major, like if the only thing that's announced is Bethesda games are exclusive, I don't think Sony's going to pull the trigger. Sony's going to not pull the trigger. They're going to save whatever it is they may have ready to go for later this year because that's what Microsoft's doing. But it'll definitely be a big PR win for Microsoft if they are planning to do that. I think people just forget that Sony makes waves with little things, man. Do you guys remember last year when they showed the box art for Spider-Man Miles Morales and it was like trending and it was like, oh my God, and they just dropped the DualSense and it's like, holy shit, look at that. They know what they're doing and they're very strategic about it. So, I have a feeling the reason why Sony had all of the not so ideal news come out in one big wave in late February is because they're getting ready to maybe, I don't know, drop some good news, drop some big things. So I could be wrong. For all we know, we could go this entire month and Sony doesn't say or do anything. But, I will hold out hope that, hey, maybe Sony has some big surprise saved in their back pocket. Simply because, look, this Bethesda deal, it's a big deal. It's literally a big deal. But, the energy that Xbox fans have right now, it's pretty significant. There's a lot of energy flowing within Microsoft, within Xbox, and with Xbox fans, and they feel rejuvenated because of this. And I can tell you right now that if Phil Spencer basically releases a video where he says in the video, and going forward, every single Bethesda IP will be exclusive or game will be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem because we want to do that for Xbox fans or whatever. I'm just gonna say that's gonna be a mic drop moment. That's gonna be that's going to hurt Sony. Not significantly, but PlayStation fans are going to be like, oh my God. Because there are a lot of PlayStation fans who like and love Bethesda's games. So if they do that, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think Sony, they might force Sony's hand. Sony might have to retaliate with something because the amount of momentum that's going to generate for Microsoft. Because think of it this way, okay? I want you to think of it this way. If you are Microsoft, you want to generate as much momentum going into the middle of this year when you're going to have your big event, E3, whatever it may be. You want to generate as much momentum as you can, and you want to leverage the Bethesda acquisition as much as you can. So if the decision was already made a long time ago that their games are going to be exclusive, you come out here now and you say, by the way, yeah, these games are all going to be exclusive, because then the hype levels and the excitement levels for Xbox's E3 or, mid-year event are going to skyrocket. And it's just a smart way to go about it if that's in fact what they're planning to do. So I just have to believe that, Sony is basically sitting back, waiting, watching, and ready for anything. And they have some stuff ready to go, man. And by the way, for the people who are wondering why I say that Sony has stuff in their back pocket ready to go, keep in mind what we learned last year. What we learned last year is that Sony plans these things out pretty well in advance, to the point where they can just kind of delay these announcements and these events by a week or two if they have to. These things are pre-recorded. These things are already done. They're not done live. And so, yeah, they could have something that they just put together for the month of March, saying we might need this for March. Maybe we don't. Anyway, Sony will retaliate by buying, Square Enix. Yeah, I don't know about that. You're giving Xbox too much credit, MBG. Excuse me. I don't know. Am I? You're saying, MBG, you need to watch yesterday's Radio Basement Arcade podcast. Enrico had 2 game/hardware and software experts on the show. Yeah, maybe I'll have to check that out. So, yeah, look, when it comes to the whole idea of Sony having a secret announcement. That's all it is. It's just me speculating. And, I was sure to put a question mark because I don't know. This isn't a rumor. I'm not creating a rumor. This isn't some inside information. It's just, logically speaking, there's just been a lot of talk that Microsoft is going to have some big things to talk about in the month of March. And Sony's been awfully quiet this year. And anytime Sony has talked, the news has not really been ideal. For those of you who are here right now, I'm assuming most of you have been following the channel for a while. Can we all agree that the energy level surrounding PlayStation is just not where it should be? It's just not where it was last year, and that things have kind of simmered down significantly. That's how I feel. And I feel that, Sony is being very quiet. Their communication is not as ideal as it should be. And I know that, we're in the pandemic and everything, but I don't know, pandemic or not, I just feel like Sony is not one to just, look at what Sony was able to achieve last year. The pandemic was also a big part of 2020, the majority of 2020. And look at how Sony knocked it out of the park, man. They had their games ready to go. They had their announcements ready to go. They had gameplay ready to show, their gameplay impressed. I'm just saying, I'm more inclined to believe that Sony they're playing a game of chess right now and they're just waiting. They're waiting for what happens next. And you're saying PS4's first months were slow too. I feel like it's slow all around, but I really do feel like Microsoft is really excited to leverage this Bethesda announcement. Because I'm not going to lie, guys, when they announced that they were acquiring Bethesda, that was the most momentum I've seen Xbox gain in a single moment in pretty much throughout the entire generation. So, true what you're saying, BGS games are played more on PlayStation than on Xbox and PC. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. We're going to have to see. I'm definitely going to cover it, though. I'm definitely going to cover whatever this news is and kind of talk about what it might mean for PlayStation fans. I think, I'm going to be honest right now, okay? I think that, and I don't mean to talk too long about the Bethesda thing, but the reason why I'm so focused on it is because it's obvious that this upcoming week there's going to be some big news. I genuinely believe that if Microsoft does not confirm explicitly that Bethesda's games will be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem, it's going to take the wind out of a lot of Xbox fans' sails. I really do. Because this is the number one thing I see Xbox fans talk about. And I understand that because if it was the other way around, it's something that PlayStation fans would constantly be talking about. And there's no doubt that PlayStation fans would demand and expect all of Bethesda's games, if Sony were to want to have acquired them, to be exclusive. And I really just feel that this is going to basically have a huge impact on the competitive dynamic. People always wonder, they're like, dude, why do you talk about Xbox so much? It's because the most important aspect to all of this to me is the competitive aspect. Okay, it's just so critical to all of it. And I really do believe that whatever Bethesda does or whatever Microsoft does with Bethesda games, it's going to have just a big impact on the competitive aspect of all of this. And I think it's going to change the energy. I think it's going to change Sony's approach to an extent, not entirely, but to an extent. And I really do have to believe that Sony is not one to be caught off guard too often, okay? Sony, they try to be ahead of the game, not, behind it. They try to be ahead of the curve. And Microsoft, while they seemingly are more okay kind of taking a back seat when they need to, there just seems to be this new energy and this new approach that Microsoft has where, I don't know. I do think that something big is going to go down this week. And, I think that if Bethesda and their games, if Microsoft, let's go the other direction here for a second before we end this topic. Let's just say this week, Microsoft makes it clear that most of Bethesda's games if not all of them, are still going to release on PlayStation. Dude, I think that's going to come off as a win for PlayStation fans rather than Xbox fans. You know, I feel like the biggest win at that point that Xbox fans will get is Game Pass. But I feel like the conversation at that point is going to kind of flip, like it's going to like be overturned. You know, the table's going to turn on a lot of these Xbox fans because, you know, they really are believing that these games are going to be exclusive. And if they're not, if it's made explicitly clear that Starfield's coming to PS5 and Doom and Wolfenstein and Elder Scrolls 6, they're all coming to PS5. I don't know, man. I feel like that's going to knock the wind out of a lot of Xbox fans. I really do. I really do. Because I can tell you right now, if Sony made a big acquisition like that, and then they also announced that, by the way, all these games are still coming to Xbox, it would be disappointing because it's like, well, damn, like, you know, I thought that this was supposed to be a big advantage that, you know, like Xbox was supposed to have, you know, a really good justifying reason to invest in the Xbox or the PlayStation or whatever, you know? So I don't know. It'll be very interesting. I'm hoping that there's some big things and some exciting things to talk about, regardless of what direction it goes in this week. So yeah, at this point, guys, obviously I'm a little bit, there's a little bit less topics to go over this week because there just has not, I mean, I need to know, guys, is it just me or does it really feel like things have just slowed down to a damn crawl? You know, I mean, I've been pumping out content, but it feels like I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel with some stuff where it's like, really, like this is all there is to talk about today. This is all there is to cover. And I feel like I'm just sitting here like patiently waiting, like, okay, like when's it going to heat up? Like when's it going to start? You know, when's it going to kick off? I feel like that's kind of like, I feel like if this was like football, we're in like the, the preseason here. And it's just like, all right, I'm just wondering if it's just me. I'm just wondering if it's just me. All right, so at this point, I want to turn it into a Q&A. I do have to, give me 1 second here while I slow down the chat. So I do want to do a Q&A with you guys. So any topics you want me to talk about, any questions you may have, feel free to ask them. And yeah, I just kind of want to make it a little bit more free form now because I pretty much expended all of my topics here. It's nice to see that I'm not the only one that feels that things have really slowed down. You're not dreaming. It is slow. Yeah. Okay. Oh, True Witty, you're saying I missed your super chat. Hold on, give me a second here so I can find it. Okay. No, I think I got it. I said BGS games are played more on PlayStation than Xbox and PC. That's the last super chat I have from you, man. Primal Plasma, you're saying maybe companies realize that society is about to reopen and people won't be inside to play video games as much. Yeah, maybe. All right, let's see. You're saying, so apparently Bend has been working on the PC port for Days Gone since February of last year. God damn, talk about a waste of resources. Dude, see, I don't know if that's true. I don't know where that information comes from, but man, that is highly disappointing if it's true. I got to tell you, like that is probably the biggest aspect of all of this that bothers me. And I'm really quick, I'm going to put my member credits back on because apparently that gameplay is I don't know, man. That's the biggest concern for me when it comes to PlayStation putting their games on PC is like resource allocation. You know, how many teams are you dedicating this? Like how, you know, I don't know. It is what it is. You're saying you bought gold PS5 shells for you. Nice. That's pretty cool, man. Did I try Outriders? I did for a little bit. I liked it. So I'm probably just going to pick it up and play it when it comes out. Let me see. You're getting your PS5 when? On the 11th? Nice, man. Yeah, dude, that is like the biggest thing I'm seeing with PlayStation 5, unfortunately. I did not think it would be this bad where like people can't get PS5s. Like they just can't get PS5s. And it's really bad. Like, it's clear that it's going to be this way for the majority of the year. And that sucks, man, because that just ultimately means we're next gen. And it's not being delayed, but it's going to get off to a much slower start. Why will Sony not let me be hyped for Metal Gear Solid? They're lazy and sleeping at the Metal Gear Solid announcement. I don't know, man. We're going to have to see if it's real or not. Will I be playing Returnal day one? Of course I will. I'm very excited for Returnal. And I'm very interested to see if it leaves me feeling like this is a AAA title or not. Because if it's not, I will tell you guys. Like, I want to know, like, is it going to feel like, okay, this feels like it should have been like $40. This does not feel like a $70 AAA title. But maybe it'll surprise me. But either way, I am playing it day one. I'm looking forward to it. You're saying Sony just released The Last of Us 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Demon Souls, Ghost of Tsushima. Phew. Give them a break to reload the PlayStation gun. Yeah. Yeah, dude, I'm not saying that they haven't been producing results and they haven't been keeping me busy, but it's just when the slowdown hits, man, it really hits. Check them on Amazon. Sunset Overdrive 2 Insomniac announced. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we could see a Sunset Overdrive 2. I think it's highly unlikely, unfortunately. I really do think it's highly unlikely that we see a Sunset Overdrive 2, but you never know. You never know. Let me see what else you guys are saying. Have I heard anything about the M.2 SSD PS5 problems? I haven't heard anything specifically about them. The last thing I heard is that apparently Sony is, I don't know if they're like running into issues, but it's a cooling thing where, you know, these SSD drives get really hot and they need to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the cooling of the PlayStation 5. Maybe Sony kind of anticipated this. Maybe this is why they made the PS5's design as large as it is. They have as big of a heat sink as they do. Either that or they are running into issues and it's causing a delay. I hope that's not the case. Even if it is, they're not going to tell us that. You're saying Sony released 11 exclusives last year. All of them were at least good. Yeah, I know. I agree. I don't think you could call any of them bad, you know? Maybe a SOCOM and Jak and Daxter reboot. I think SOCOM might be likely. I don't think we're going to see Jak and Daxter. Today I scratched the PS5 inside after I removed the plate for my second time. Oh, that sucks, dude. You're saying the big Sony announcement is confirmation of NAC 3 and SOCOM. I'm going to tell you right now, if we NAC 3, but alongside the SOCOM announcement, I'm hyped. You know, not for NAC 3, but I'd be like, okay, you want to announce NAC 3, but if we get it alongside a SOCOM announcement, I'd be happy for that. Luca, you're saying most of the games like Days Gone use Epic's Unreal Engine, which is developed for all platforms, so it should make it easier to port to PC. Yeah, that is true. That's where I think Sony has to walk a very fine line, or they are walking a very fine line, where one of their selling points at the PS5, as I said, I apologize for sounding like a broken record, but they're like, hey, the PS5's SSD is so blisteringly fast, we want to develop games around it. And that's why they're going to be exclusive to the PS5, because we're taking full advantage of the PS5 hardware. I mean, maybe years later, you know, when PC hardware gets there. But right now, you know, they got to be careful with PS5 games not going to PC, because that's going to be a very bad look. Very bad look. But you are right about that. Do I have an Xbox? I do. I have an Xbox One X. I do not have a Series X. But yeah, I mean, it seems like you guys don't really have a ton of questions for me today, which is fine. There's not a whole lot going on. MBG, have you heard of Naughty Dog's rumored games Savage Starlight or Ray Space? I have not. I mean, there's been a lot of rumors and a lot of talk of what Naughty Dog's next game is going to be. I'm excited for factions. Okay, that's actually something I can rant on a little bit here just for a moment. So earlier this week, I covered some news regarding Naughty Dog and their next project because Neil Druckmann kind of acknowledged it in a tweet where he's like, look, if you're asking me about what we're doing next, I can't tell you. But he basically hinted that they're working on some really cool things and that they will share them with us as soon as they can. And I covered this news and I talked about it. And I talked about how, like, look, you know, I'm I'm hoping it's Factions, this dedicated Last of Us multiplayer game, and I'm very interested to see what it is they're gonna do next. And there were people like telling me like, dude, have some dignity. Like after the hate train you went on with The Last of Us Part 2, you should, basically making it sound like I either shouldn't talk about Naughty Dog or I'm not allowed to talk about them or that there's something wrong if I do talk about them. And that just pisses me off because it's like, no, that's not how that works. I'm allowed to have my own opinion on anything. And that is including The Last of Us Part 2. I made multiple opinion piece videos on The Last of Us Part 2 that were just my opinion. And even though I was emotionally driven during that time, that never meant that, I'm never going to look in the direction of Naughty Dog again. Like, no, I'm allowed to cover what they're doing next. Especially I run a PlayStation channel where we cover a lot of the news. So if Naughty Dog announces something, whether it's The Last of Us 3 or a new IP or Factions, I'm going to talk about it. It just pisses me off that people had this mindset where it's like, oh man, like you had a negative opinion of The Last of Us 2. You're not allowed to talk about Naughty Dog anymore. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, I'll talk about whatever I want, Like, I just don't. And I was trying to be as polite as I could. And I literally said, I responded to somebody who said that to me. And I said, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I literally don't know what to tell you. Like, if you don't like my opinions and you don't like the fact that I have my own opinions and you don't agree with it, and basically you view my content as negative, like it's just not good to you, then why the hell are you here? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that to be rude. Like, I want viewership. I want people to be here. But at the same time, like, why would you subject yourself to that? You know what I mean? Like, and it makes it clear that it's because they don't really care that much. They just, they just want to be snarky on the internet. That's all they want to do. It is what it is. It's hard not to get frustrated. It's part of the job, I guess you could say, of doing YouTube and being on the internet. But at the same time, it's like, hey, if you want to be here and you perceive my content as negative, then I'm not gonna tell you to leave. I'm just going to suggest that, if it bothers you, you don't have to subject yourself to it, but don't get me wrong, it still helps. That's all. Yeah, did you guys see that? Am I excited for Space Jam 2? No, I can't say that I am. No, nothing against it. Besides the Sony exclusives, what other games are you excited to play later this year and into 2022? I'm super excited for Elden Ring. I'm excited for Back 4 Blood. I feel like there's not a ton of game. Like, I just bought that game Mortal Shell. I'm going to try that soon. There are definitely other games I'm excited for. It just feels like a lot of stuff is not releasing until later in the year. I'm excited for Resident Evil 8. But yeah, look, I'm excited for whatever Naughty Dog does next. The Last of Us 2 at this point for me is water under the bridge. I understand that it's like, some people have like a hardline stance, like I'm never supporting Naughty Dog again. It's like, I get that. And that's your decision, I'm going to play Factions if it seems good to me, which I think it will be good. And, we'll see what they do next. We'll see what they do next. Have I played Control Ultimate Edition? I have not gotten the chance yet. Will I stream Mortal Shell? Probably not. My next stream will probably be for, I don't know. Maybe we could do a stream this month. I can't promise anything, but I'll try to stream Returnal. Do you watch any Xbox-centric channels? Yeah, I watch some. I'm not going to name them simply because there's kind of like a, I don't want to say, it's not like a feud. I think that's a little bit dramatic, but it's like we're kind of at polar opposites. But I do follow most of them, some of them, and I'm always interested to hear the other side, another perspective. And I guess you could say this is where I get a lot of my ranting from and like why it's like, oh, dude, why do you focus on Xbox and the Xbox fan base so much? I guess it's because I kind of am still in touch with it, I still do follow it. And they definitely show up here, some of them as well. So, I don't know, man. I'm just waiting for there to be more to talk about. I'm aware that a lot of the times with these podcasts, I tend to kind of retread the same topics or, go on the same type of rants. I know that some people are okay with that. But I know, there's just, there's just so little happening right now, you know. And I try to find things to discuss and talk about each week, and because I enjoy doing it, you know, I like doing the podcast, but it's tough. It's tough, you know, and I do it alone here. I know that there's a lot of people who like wonder, am I going to go on other podcasts? Am I going to bring on guests? I can't say anything right now. I can't say that I have anything in the works or any plans, but I just like doing it this way. That's all. You should give Remnant a try on the PS5 if you haven't. I actually have played a little bit of Remnant from the Shadows. It's really good. It's basically Dark Souls with guns. So it's a solid title. Will you play Final Fantasy VII Remake now that it is free on PS Plus? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know why. Like, there's just something stopping me from playing Final Fantasy VII. I don't know what it is, but I want to say it's more likely if I do play it. If I do, it'll be the PS5 version. That seems like the more likely thing that's going to happen. Have I played Immortal Phoenix Rising? I have not. The game, I don't know. I heard good things about it. You're a fraud for not playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yeah, I guess maybe I am a little bit. I don't know. It's not like I covered the game, though. Like, I was making it clear I was going to play it. I talk about it a little bit because I know that there's a lot of people on the channel who do like Final Fantasy and do play it. But I think I've made it clear that Final Fantasy is not really my cup of tea, honestly. Will we be getting a Bloodborne enhancement? I fully believe that there will be a Bloodborne remaster. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. And I think it will probably release on PC as well. Thoughts on the Switch Pro rumors? It's interesting. The most interesting thing I've heard so far is that apparently there will be Switch Pro exclusives, which is fascinating. Nintendo doing what Microsoft and Sony would not do. You have to just give Final Fantasy VII Remake on PS Plus a test run, then decide to buy it on PS5. Yeah, maybe I could do that. Maybe. I've been trying to make more time to play games these days, but it's been difficult. Just so busy anymore, you know? I'm tired. Very, very tired. It's hard to keep the energy up for this long, you know? You're saying the Switch sold more units in 3.5 years than Xbox One and 7. Indeed it did. Indeed it did. But yeah, I think that's going to have to do it for this episode of the podcast, guys. I do apologize. I apologize mainly because I know it's not the most exciting episode, but I'm trying to keep the content flowing here as much as I can. And, you know, I know that we have to rehash some topics, but I only try to rehash topics if I feel as though there's more I want to say on it or more to add to it. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this episode of the podcast. That does it for episode 51. I'm certain we're going to have some very interesting things to talk about during next week's episode. Things that maybe I think are going to be a little bit more interesting, I guess we could say. So thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with me. Big shout out to all of my channel members. Thank you guys for supporting me directly. Big shout out to anybody who donated a super chat during this episode of the podcast. They really do help a lot. That also goes a very long way in helping support the content here directly. And so, yeah, if you're interested in becoming a member, consider doing so. It really goes a long way. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it. That's episode 51 in the bag. Guys, hit the like button on your way out. We're at 480 likes. I would really appreciate it if we could at least get to 500 likes before, well, maybe not before this ends, but, you know, let's just see if we can get to 500 likes. But big shout out to Devil Shooter for week over week providing the extremely useful timestamps. So big shout out to you, man. Really appreciate what you do. It goes a long way for the community here, and I'm sure that they all greatly appreciate it. But yeah, that does it, guys. I will catch you guys here, same time, same place next week for episode 52. In between that time, I will be producing the regularly scheduled content, and we'll have to see what news ends up being revealed this week. So, all right, guys, I will catch you later. Take care.